What's up, guys? It is Conference USA Day here at Targeting Winners. I am Darren. I am joined as always by Pete. Pete, how we doing today, man?
Not too bad, not too bad. Just got back from Vegas yesterday, doing some recon for our fall shows and all that. And we're going to have some pretty interesting things coming up when we start the fall here. Hopefully, it'll be fun for all of us and something to engage with. So I'm looking forward to doing some interesting things as we get into closer to the season. So otherwise, happy to be here as always.
Nice. And I see we can't really complain. We used to complain about the weather being cold all the time, but now we're both sitting in our states with like sweltering 95 degrees with 100% humidity. We're just never happy. We can't get anything. Nice.
Vegas was 100, 109, 110, 111 the entire time I was there. I thought I'd come back to Michigan. It'd be great. I landed last night at midnight. It was still 90 degrees, and it is absolutely sweltering outside right now. So it actually felt cooler in Vegas, which makes absolutely no sense. But here we are.
Yeah, if you hear a little whispering through my mic, I have a fan on and I'm not turning it off, so we'll just have to deal with it. All right, so we're continuing our Group of 5 previews this week. We're looking at Conference USA Today. USA Today, it's a newspaper, right? Are they still in operation? No, who knows. But anyway, 2 new teams in the FBS this year, bringing the total to 136. Both of those teams happen to fall in this conference today, Missouri State and Delaware. And as you may know, if you follow the NCAA, these teams are not eligible for their conference title this year. However, should they get to 6 wins and not enough 6-win teams can fill all the bowl game slots, there's a possibility they could get into a bowl game. So they do have something worth playing for. So, all right, we're excited. I mean, I think this is really like officially the start of college football season, correct? I mean, the NBA is done. The NHL is done. Only psychos bet Major League Baseball every day because I can't keep up with that crap. So, I mean,
no, too much.
I think this is it. I mean, I think we should be excited. We're ready to go. It's almost July. We're less than 8 weeks away from week 0.
We're not far away from the Big Ten and SEC and talking about the big conferences, so we're getting close.
Yeah,
so
we got 4 conferences left. Maybe possibly doing when we hit the SEC and Big Ten conversations. Possibly doing a live stream, getting you guys to join in, give us your thoughts, your bets, your questions, your concerns, anything that you guys feel like you want to add. We're all ears, man. So if you're new to the channel, thanks for checking us out. Like, subscribe, and more importantly, leave a comment because we are really trying to build, a community of college football bettors, and we want your guys' opinions on anything and everything about college football. So feel free to leave some comments below once this video is up. All right, Pete, let's start with the first newbie, Missouri State, 8-4 last year in the FCS. What do we think about Missouri State for their first year here?
Yeah, coming into FBS, going to be a challenge for them, most certainly. I mean, their offense has been good. I think the offense could be decent here. My concern with them is going to be defense. I think they're going to struggle. I think the offense is going to need to carry the load. As we've talked about before, any of these teams that are either changing conferences or going from SES to FBS, even more so with that latter group, is a challenge. And I certainly do expect them to face some growth here. I mean, it's really hard, as we talked about before in the other previews, when you have a team coming to a new conference. Let's forget the FBS thing for a minute. Just coming to a new conference, it's really hard to see how they're going to function within that conference because every conference has an identity. Some are offense heavy, defense heavy, you name it. I think it's going to be a challenge for them to do so. So I don't know. It's really hard to assess this team. Once again, future wise, it's hard to do that as well. So I don't have a lot on this one. I just think that, I think that what we want to see, I mean, if you're a Missouri State team fan, what you want to see is just getting better through the year, right? Improvement. And second half of the year starting to show some gelling, some effectively working together. You got a win or 2 that you're not supposed to. That would be interesting. To me, that would be a successful season for this team. So I don't expect much out of them other than getting to the conference, getting comfortable, gelling a bit as a team, and looking at where their future goes. So that's what I see for them. So yeah, that's my piece.
Yeah, so obviously no conference title odds here, but DraftKings and FanDuel have their win totals both at 4.5, juice to the over. So possibly looking for at least 5 wins out of this team. Like you said, not a whole lot to really compare this school to at the FBS level, but it looks like from their 2024 schedule, their games are a lot of fun to watch. It's like if
Right.
you're an over better, man, these guys are your dream bet coming up here. Like you had said, a lot of offense coming back, definitely a lot of experience on that side of the ball. So that is always going to help, especially at the quarterback position. Jacob Clark is going to be the guy. But you had mentioned the defense. I see only 3 returning starters here. And I don't know. I mean, I haven't watched any of their games. So I don't know if this offense is similar to like what we saw from Kent State a few years ago. Run a play as soon as you possibly can, score as quick as possible. Let the defense use all your oxygen on the sidelines and just leave after 3 hours and hope for the best. But this team gave up less than 21 points only 3 times in their 12 games. And 4 times they gave up 42 or more. So I kind of feel bad for the defense here. I mentioned the totals. They had half their games went 67 points combined or higher, some like pushing 90. So if you need a good way to kill 3.5 hours and watch some entertaining defense optional football, this may be your team. I didn't bet anything here either. I mean, I tried to look at and see how some of these other FCS teams did their first year in FBS. Most that have an experienced quarterback did have some success. Sam Houston had a little bit of bad luck losing a lot of close games their first year in, but everybody else with an experienced quarterback did have some success. I mean, Jacksonville State, I think, won 9 games. James Madison, I want to say, won 7 or 8 their first year. Yeah, they won 8 and then went to 11 and then 9 in their third year. So you can get success from year one. I think there is something here for them to build on, but that defense, man, they've got to do something. Otherwise, you're the totals guy. You'll just be giving out overs in every Missouri State game the entire season.
It'll be really easy betting. We'll be fine. But they're going to be they're playing better defenses, you would think, theoretically. Not that this conference is all that great, but I mean, they're going to be playing theoretically better defenses. So we'll see how that goes, right? I don't know.
I don't know if you know, not a lot of points were scored in this conference last year, unless you were Jacksonville State. So, I mean, they are bringing in something that this conference is not really used to, at least in 2024, is offense. So,
yes,
there must be a reason there's a little juice to that over at 4.5. So, certainly something to watch. The other newbie, we got Delaware. Now, this is interesting. DK has their win total at 5.5, juice to the under. FanDuel has their total wins at 4.5, juice to the over. Any thoughts on the other new team here in Delaware?
Yeah, I think this team's a little more interesting. I think they're a little bit more balanced. I mean, still the defense is not exactly stellar here, but they're a little more balanced. I think this is a team that is built that could potentially compete more effectively here. I did go back and look at some video of this team, and I would call them scrappy, if that's a word that fits with them. They seem to hang around. They do have a pretty decent offense. Their defense can play well at times. I think that's going to be the big potentially Achilles heel for them if it doesn't stand up like it needs to. I think their secondary could be a problem, and that's where I get a little concerned when they play teams that do have an effective offense. I think they might get exposed a bit on the back end with the secondary. I think the game, if you look at week 5, I think they play FIU in week 5. That'll be interesting. I'm just curious to see how that plays itself out and how this team stands up in this conference. So for me, this team, I think, is better now. I mean, kind of as a team. And I think it'll be interesting to see in certain games this year how they compete, right? Because I think they can at times. It'll just be interesting to see if they have the talent and especially the depth to be able to compete. So we'll see how that plays out. And I was looking at them win total probably around 5-ish or so. So, those point totals kind of fall into that. It makes a lot of sense. So yeah, I think I agree with pretty much everything I see in terms of the odds with them. I say around 5 wins, perhaps. Maybe they can get a little better than that. But I think they'll be interesting to watch. I think there's something here going forward. So those are my thoughts.
Yeah, I noticed they lost a lot of their top players at the skill positions. Their leading rusher, their leading receiver, are both gone. But they do return most of their receiving core, at least the ones that have had around 10 to 15 receptions last year. So that's good. Their second leading running back is back, 3 offensive linemen, returning starters on that group. The one thing I worry about with their defense is they are bringing back a lot of their top tacklers. Their top sack guy went to North Carolina. I just wonder, while it's usually a good thing, when a team at this level brings back the majority of their people, my thought is the talent level, maybe the size. If you weren't scooped up by by another group of 5 program or even a power 4 program. I wonder if these guys maybe are undersized for this level. Didn't look at any heights and weights or anything like that, but that was my first concern here. Looking at the schedule, because there's a difference in the win totals from those 2 sports books. Yeah, in their conference play, there's no Kennesaw State, there's no Missouri State, there's no New Mexico State. I mean, those are 3 of the teams that are projected to be kind of below 500, maybe at best. Which means they get a lot of tougher teams. They get Western Kentucky at home. They go to Liberty. They go to Jacksonville State. Non-conference. They go to Colorado, Wake Forest. I mean, and what you had mentioned the game against FIU. The one thing I think is going to be interesting is that week 3 game where they host UConn. Yeah. I mean, now UConn's been playing much better ball the last couple of years, but they've kind of been a doormat for a really long time. So I think that one is going to be a pretty good measuring stick to see how they'll do. So I mean, if it's on TV, I'll probably watch because this conference is pretty bad. I mean, if they start out 1-2 or something and show something against UConn, I'm not against firing a bet on over their win total, but we'll see how it goes, man. Again, there's really not a whole lot to go by when you're trying to project how these 2 teams or any team going from FCS to FBS is, but they both have experience in the quarterback position, so that gives me a little hope for either of these programs. So we'll see what happens. All right, moving on to people who were in Conference USA last year. Kennesaw State. Yes, they beat Liberty last year. It was a beautiful thing. But that was about the highlight of the season. Got rid of their coach after the season was over, the only coach they've ever known. Not a big fan of that move. I thought he kind of got the short end of the stick there. DK has them at plus 4,000 to win the conference with a win total of 3.5 juice to the over. FanDuel's got plus 2,900 for them to win the conference, also with a win total of 3.5 juice to the over. What do we think about Kennesaw State?
They're going to have a hard time winning games. I think probably a 3-win season is likely somewhere in that neighborhood. You mentioned something earlier about the offense in this in this conference. If you look across the projections for 2025 in terms of offensive rankings, everybody is under 100 in terms of the rankings except for 2 teams, right? Liberty and Missouri State. I mean, so this is an offensively deficient conference, which we've seen. Now, what does that mean, though? Because we were talking before we got on here today about, if you've got a quarterback, either a returning quarterback or if you can get yourself a decent quarterback, I think you can make some noise in this conference. So it'll be interesting to see, if one of these quarterbacks here, either this year or next year or whatever, stands out, because I think there's opportunity here for a team that can score, right? I think, New Mexico has gotten a little better on offense. I don't think they're going to be very good, but they're a little better on offense here. Their defense is going to be a problem. They have deficiencies across that defense. I think that is a big concern. I think it's the largest reason why they're going to win probably 3 games or something like that. I think it's actually a pretty safe. I don't have any bets in this conference just to preclude this here. I'm leaning on the under here for total wins. I think this is going to be a challenging year for this team. That said, I don't hate their coach, so I think there is, some potential going forward to do something positive. But they are not in a position right now to do a heck of a lot. I mean, their edge rushing is non-existent, so I think it's going to be a bit of a challenge for them this year. So, yeah, that's what I got on them.
Yeah, I mean, I do like the fact that they are bringing back a fair amount of returning production. It's probably, I think, one of the top 10 teams in the country as far as returning production goes. If you use ESPN for that particular stat, but yeah, I mean, we had talked about the quarterback issues for new teams. I mean, this was a new team last year. They went 2-10. The quarterback who they had, Davis Bryson, didn't really have any quarterback experience before he came over to this program, and now they're making him a wide receiver. So you've got 2 guys, Dexter Williams and Amari Odom, supposedly battling for the QB1 spot. I mean, this team only averaged around 19 points a game and 240 yards. Offensively, things were a challenge for these guys. And of course, the only game I watched was them beating Liberty. So it's this team's really good. How are they not winning any games? They're taking down Liberty. So that does give me hope, actually. I mean, they've got some depth at wide receiver. Like I said, a lot of people coming back, but just not a lot of stats, not a lot of just not a lot of. I mean, they're experienced, but I mean, how much did you contribute when you're only scoring 19 points a game? But, right. Defensively, they weren't really that bad. I mean, when you look at things, but I just don't.
Yeah.
I want them to improve. It's just like,
I do too.
it's just stuck in my head. They beat Liberty. I'm like, I was very anti-Liberty last year. And I'm just like, yeah, I kind of want this program to succeed. I don't think they should have got rid of Bohannon. I mean, he was the only coach they knew. I mean,
Right.
he was very successful in FCS. I'm like, why do you make him the guy? Yeah, it's like your first year. What were you expecting? A college football playoff appearance? Yeah, I mean, again, just looking at the schedule, they go to Jacksonville State, they go to Liberty, Louisiana Tech comes to them, UTEP comes to them, Missouri State comes to them. Man, if they can get, the big question mark is which one of these quarterbacks is getting the job, and how much of an upgrade are they going to be over Bryson? I think if any of them shows even a remote improvement over what Bryson gave last year, I don't think 4 wins is out of the realm of possibility if that defense can hold up. My concern is neither one of those guys step up. There's no offensive success like there was last year, and we're looking at another 2-win season. But I didn't bet the over, but I'm cautiously optimistic that they're going to get there. But we say, man, never bet on a bad team to do good things. And
that's right.
I didn't learn, as you'll find out later in the show, I didn't learn my lesson from FIU last year when I bet them to go over 4.5 wins, and they decided to lose to Kennesaw State, which was their other win, and lose to Monmouth. They could have been a 6-win team, and I would have looked like I knew what I was talking about. Thanks, FIU. So I'm very anti-FIU just because I am a bit. Anyway, moving on. New Mexico State. Let's see. DraftKings has them plus 2,500 to win the conference with a win total of 4.5 juice to the over. FanDuel, pretty similar, plus 2,600 to win the conference, also 4.5 with a posted win total juice to the over as well. What do we got on New Mexico State?
Yeah, I think in many respects the lines have been fortified a bit. I think they're going to get better play in the trenches, which is a good thing. I do think they're going to have an issue on defense, just not having a presence on the outside. I don't love their linebacker core. I think it's going to become a defensive deficient team, and I think that's going to become an issue for them. I think, the win total for me, I'd be somewhere around 3-ish, maybe 4. That's kind of where I'm sitting on them. I mean, there's some interesting games that are coming up later in the year that I want to see how they gel. And continue forward. I think their offense has gotten a little better. I think they're going to have some issues on defense, as I noted. But that's as deep as I got in this team. I don't really like much of what I see, and I didn't do much with them. So yeah, I'm out.
Yeah, here's another situation where you got 2 quarterbacks. Last year's incumbent Parker Awad, less than 50% completion percentage. He brought in Logan Fife from Montana. I think Fife should probably be the guy, but that's not my choice, unfortunately. Top 2 running backs, McGowan and Washington, are gone. They do bring back a couple of their top receivers in PJ Johnson and TJ Pride, and they did add 5 more in the portal. So I think if Fife gets this job, there could be something for this team offensively. And like most Conference USA teams, they were pretty bad offensively. You had mentioned the defense. And this looks like the problem area here. Their top tackler is back, though, Tyler Martinez, which helps. He's only one of 3 returning starters on that side of the ball. I was reading an article about them, and I can't remember what site I read it on, but the guy was talking about the New Mexico State defense, and he had a sentence that said, "You recovered 1 less fumble than the entire New Mexico State team last year." And I looked it up, and sure enough, they only had 1 fumble recovery. So statistically, we're only 1 fumble recovery worse than New Mexico State. So there you go. If you're feeling bad about yourself, just remember you were only 1 fumble recovery shy of what New Mexico State did as a team. But yeah, only 14 sacks. They couldn't generate any pressure. They were last in points allowed, second to last in yards allowed, minus 13 turnover ratio. I know Tim loves that. I guess 4.5 win total juice to the over. You're hoping that one of these QBs steps up, either Awad improves or Fife gets the job. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, just look at some of the games on their schedule. I mean, they host Sam Houston, but they do get Missouri State and Kennesaw, but then they got to go to Louisiana Tech, Liberty, and Western Kentucky. Non-conference game at Tennessee. Jeez. I didn't do anything here, but 4.5 to the over. 5 seems kind of generous looking at everything, especially on the defensive side of the ball. So If you passed, I think I'm right there with you, man. I don't want to touch this team until I see which quarterback wins the job.
Yeah.
All right, talking about teams I want to avoid, let's go to last year's disastrous win total bet, Florida International. They brought in Willie Simmons. He's pretty damn awesome at Prairie View and Florida A&M, 66-24 record. Love this hire for this program. DK has them at 15-1 to win the conference with a 5.5 win total, even juice there. FanDuel also 15-1, 5.5 with a posted win total, juiced a little bit to the under. What do we think about FIU?
Yeah, I mean that was not a good year last year.
Thanks for
this
the reminder.
team. Sorry, I couldn't help that. This team has issues. I mean, number one, I think the offense could be okay, but in terms of continuity and the returning players, I think they are at 41% or something, 35% on defense, which I think is going to be their problem, right? I think for the most part, they're way down on their defensive side in terms of who's returning. Not that they were potent to begin with on the defensive side, so who knows? Maybe they get lucky and pull in some decent players, but I think they're going to score. I think the defense is going to leak quite a bit. So I think it's going to be a challenge for them to win games simply because I don't think the defense is going to hold up to do it. Once again, it depends who they're playing. That's the weird thing about this conference. I mean, I lean into defense all the time, but when you have a bunch of inept offensive teams, or quite a few of them, how good does the defense have to be to keep you in the game? So that's kind of the hard thing to kind of decipher here a little bit. So I think the offense will be decent early. I think the defense is going to be questionable all the way through. But, if the defense could do something, I think it's entirely possible that, that they could, get some wins here. Okay, the other stat, hold on a second. Switching things. Yeah, I mean, in terms of the defense, as I said before, giving up 36 points a game before, that's a bit of a concern, of course. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think this team is going to have a down year, even more so than last when Darren was semi-positive on them. So I think
Kennesaw State and Monmouth. All you had to do was win one of those, and I cash. And I was watching the Monmouth game. The receiver was running in for the go-ahead touchdown with under a minute to go, and he fumbled the ball at like the 3-yard line. I should have known it at that point. Yeah, this bet's done.
Sorry, that had to be said. So yeah, I'm done here. It's all yours. Fire away.
I'm not as super confident on the offense as you are. I mean, their top two wide receivers both decided to leave for Georgia Tech. I mean, Kewan Jenkins didn't have a bad year. I mean, I watched a lot of FIU. For some reason, I just thought he was more terrible than I gave him credit for, but he actually wasn't that bad for his sophomore season, I believe. They get Keon Owens back at running back. But losing your top two receivers, for your offensive line starters, Jenkins doesn't run a ton, so that O-line's gonna have to come together. The defense, like you talked about the defense, man, they need to stop the run. I mean, they gave up 191 yards a game on the ground, and you look at the pass. Well, they were really good against pass. They only give up 171 yards a game through the air. Yeah, but who's passing on them? When you can run for almost 200 yards a game, I wouldn't throw the ball either. And that side of the ball, only one returning starter. So, I mean, there's some questions on both sides of the ball here. They do get Delaware and Missouri State on the schedule, but they also get Liberty, Jacksonville State, Western Kentucky, Sam Houston. Last year was last year, but I just can't get the Kennesaw State Monmouth thing out of my head. But, Jenkins and Rivers really became like quite the tandem the second half of the year. So now with him gone, I mean, at least two people are going to have to step up because he lost Dean Patterson as well. So, again, a team I would like to see do well. I think Willie Simmons is a great hire for this program. But, I don't know how many of these new guys are like his guys. I don't know what they recruited from the year before that already committed to the old coach before Simmons came on board. But the coaching hire gives me hope that they can actually hit the over here. But there are just so many key losses at the skill positions on the offense and just a ton of starters on the defense. So I don't know. I mean, then again, maybe if you suck against the run and you're bringing in everybody new, maybe that's an improvement. But again, just a lot of new pieces to get working together. 5.5 juice to the under seems right. So if you want to go that way, but do it at DK, you can get a little bit less juice on that. But yeah, I'm avoiding. All right, moving on to Middle Tennessee State. is it me or is Nicholas Vadiato played quarterback for like 11 years? It just seems like I read his name like every year going into college football.
At least.
But anyway,
Isn't he like 50
okay,
years
that's
old
what I
now?
thought. Maybe it was just me. All right, DK 18-1 to win this conference, 4.5 with a win total, juice to the over. FanDuel a little less. They have him at 15-1, also 4.5 as a win total, juice to the over. Tim, who is working today, not with us, does have a play on this team here. But Pete, go ahead. What are we thinking about the Blue Raiders?
Yeah, I mean, I think that juice the over is interesting. I mean, they have quite a bit of returning players, which is good. I think that'll help support them through this season. Especially once again, we're talking about these conferences that are just bleeding players, and so it's an issue. So I think when you are in a conference like this, having continuity is going to be critical going forward. And so they have some of that this year, which is good on either side of the ball. It's basically even. It's about 60% on each side, which is good, which is positive. Yeah, I think I kind of like that over. I mean, over that. What was that number again? Was it?
They're both juiced to the over. Looks like FanDuel's minus 154. DraftKings a little bit better, minus 140.
Yeah, I mean that over, I think to me is interesting. I mean, I think we've got a veteran quarterback who's 50 years old now. That's going to do quite well or something like that. I think this team has senior leadership, right? And I think that's a really positive thing in a conference like this, where, I think a lot of the younger players that are coming in have not played against guys that have that type of veteran presence. I think that will help them quite a bit in some of these games. So I think that's positive. So that'll help them. So I actually think they have a pretty high floor. So I do like that over quite a bit. I think the veteran presence, the discipline, and all of that will serve them well. So I am positive on this team. What do you think, Derek?
Yeah, I agree totally. I mean, you had mentioned some of the offense, 4 starters on the offensive line coming back. They do need to run the ball. They were pretty crappy at that last year. They got Ricky Hunt, who's a transfer from Ohio. I mean, I know we all watched a lot of MAC football in November. I kind of like him, so I think he's got a chance to be RB1 over there. They did lose their top 2 wide receivers, but they brought in 4 transfers, and they all came from Power 4 schools. So they may have a little bit of an athletic advantage at that position going into the season. Defense was, I mean, it was not good. Brought a lot of returning production back, though, which, like you said, so that the continuity thing I do like there. But if they can't get a running game going and extend drives and keep their own defense off the field, I don't know, man. But I do also. I actually had 2 bets ready to roll. I fired on the one. I didn't fire on this one. And then Tim was like, I'm betting Middle Tennessee State. I'm like, all right, well, I'm not going to do it as well. We'll let him have that one. So, the schedule's not terrible. They get Jacksonville State and Sam Houston at home. They do go to Western Kentucky, but as you'll see, they're basically kind of starting from scratch. But Tim did not bet the win total, and I didn't ask him if this was just like a hedge play or not, if he thinks maybe they're meeting Liberty in the title game, but he's got Middle Tennessee State to win the conference. And it looks like Hard Rock has plus 1750 on that. So first bet we've got for today from Tim, Middle Tennessee to win the conference, plus 1750. He is rolling with that. He can address if that's a hedging opportunity on the next show, but that's all he kind of told me. He was loud in our chat. Everything was in caps. He was very
he's confident. He's optimistic. That's good.
I got a feeling he's already ordered a Blue Raider jersey, but he's kind of close to Tennessee. Maybe he's just going to drive up and get one. Who knows? All right, moving on. University of Texas, El Paso here. UTEP. DK has them 13-1, as does FanDuel. Both sites also have their win total at 5 to 5.5, juice to the under. Pete, what do we think about the Miners?
Yeah, I mean, if I had to take a stab at a number, I think around 6 is where I landed when I took a look at their schedule. I mean, this is a tempo control type of team, and they rely on that. I think they have quite a few returns on that offensive line, which will help them grind it out, which is a very positive thing. Secondary is a little shaky, to say the least, and I think that will be a problem for them on the back end of that defense. And we'll see how that plays out. I mean, once again, within the conference, we don't have a lot of gunslingers in this conference, so that isn't necessarily going to kill you like it would in some other conferences where there's people launching the ball all over the place. I don't see that happening so much. So I am not as worried about their secondary depth simply because of the conference they're in versus another one. I do like the veteran offensive line. I do think they can be competitive. I do think there's going to be some value in the overs here. We'll have to talk about that as we get later into the season. So it'll be interesting to watch what they do earlier in the season because I think they are a team that really is going to rely on tempo, controlling the ball, all of that. And if they do that, I think they can have some success. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out here. When do they play Liberty? They play Liberty in like week 7 or something like that. I don't have it directly in front of me here, but it's somewhere in that ballpark. That'll be interesting to see what they do there. I am not down on this team. I think they are a team that has some upside potential. Once again, it just depends on the back end of the defense and who they're playing. So those are my thoughts on them.
Me likey this team. This is my surprise pick, and this is my one bet on this conference as well. Just to, what they have coming back with Skylar Locklear, I like that. He's going to be pushed by Cade McConaughey and Malachi Nelson, who's been on Boise State, USC, but yet still hasn't been able to. Or McConnell, sorry, Cade. I know you're not listening, but whatever. So I mean, there's going to be some pressure on him to perform. I mean, he was last year's guy. No reason why he shouldn't be QB1 this time, but there are some people that step in that also have talent in case he craps the bed. We talked about transfer running backs with the last team. Charlotte had a guy, Sean Wilson, averaged over 6 yards a carry last year, averaged 6 yards a carry the year before that. He's now on UTEP, so I definitely like the fact that they could finally have a running game. They only had like 9 rushing TDs last year. This guy could technically get that on his own. 3 of their top 4 receivers, Jaden Smith, Cam Thomas, Kenny Odom, all back. Those 3 combined for over 100 catches, over 1,400 yards, and 10 touchdowns. So I do like offensively where this team is going, and we talked about the offensive struggles of a lot of teams here. So I think that does give them a little bit of advantage going into the season. But the defense was tragic. 32 points a game allowed, almost 400 yards a game. Brought in 11 transfers though, so they're doing what they can to address this concern. But there's a lot of subpar defenses in this conference, but they're one of the few teams that looks like they can actually generate some offense, especially if Wilson steps up to be RB1. This schedule, I see 5.5 juice to the under at both of these sites. They host Liberty, they host Jacksonville State. So 2 of the two of the top 3 favorites to win this conference both come to Texas El Paso. Their 4 conference road games are Kennesaw State, Sam Houston, and the 2 newbies, Delaware and Missouri State. So those are certainly all winnable games. The non-conference slate, they go to Texas. All right, you're going to get slaughtered there, no biggie. They also go to Utah State. We discussed them in the Mountain West show, not a premier program by any stretch. And then they host Louisiana Monroe and Tennessee Martin. I mean, those are winnable games here if they can get any kind of running game going. I fired on the over here yesterday. I got over 5.5 plus 124 at FanDuel. But apparently more people disagree with that because it's plus 126 today. So if you like the over and you think they got a weak schedule and are going to get a running game going, hell, go bet it at FanDuel now. You can get a better number than I did 24 hours ago. But yeah, I've got Utah over 5.5. And I do kind of feel pretty good about that considering what we're bringing back, compared to what everybody else is bringing back. All right, now we're getting into we got 4 left. Beautiful. No, 5 left. Yeah, 5 left. We're in the top half. Let's look at Sam Houston. By the way, I just read this. They're playing all their home games in Houston, which is not where they're located. So they're 75 miles away from their home. And we all know that wasn't the greatest thing for the Kansas Jayhawks last year when they were playing at Arrowhead. So keep that in mind. But DraftKings has them at 11-1. FanDuel has them at 10-1. Both sites, 4.5 is a posted win total, juice to the over. Sam Houston, what are you thinking?
Interesting team. This is one of the teams here that I am really going to be watching. I'm curious to see what they do with this team. I like the coach. I like where he came from. I like the pedigree. I like that. I mean, their biggest issue this year is continuity. I think they got like 40% of their players returning. I mean, their defense, I think, was gutted. They've lost like 75% of their players on the defensive side. Yeah, that's going to be a problem, right? So can you replace them? To me, that's the biggest deal for them. Now, if you can do that, I think this team could really have some upside here. What was that win total? You mentioned it, I think.
4.5 juice to the over.
Yeah, I like that over. I really, actually, I didn't come in here with a bet, but I really like the over on that. I think there's definitely potential there. I could see them winning actually a couple more games than that, potentially. It just really depends what happens with that defense, right? I mean, you're turning so many players over. I actually believe in their offense. I think their offense will be fine. So to me, it's a defensive side of the play ball. I think that's going to be quite interesting to see what happens. You mentioned the stadium thing, which I was going to bring up as well. That's a challenge. That is just a challenge. That said, can they overcome that potentially? I think there's going to be some key matchups coming kind of mid-year that'll be interesting. But yeah, this is a team that I think will be intriguing. I think the first 3-4 games will say a lot about what we're going to see here. And so I am looking forward to that. I am leaning on that over. I actually do like that. Who knows? By the end of this, I might get convinced to play the over on that because I do think there is some potential here for sure. So what do you think, Darren?
Okay, well then don't listen to me for the next 45 seconds or so because I respectfully am going to take the other side here. I do agree 100% with the defense. They lost every single starter. Their top 16 tacklers from last year, all gone.
Yes.
They were a really good defensive team last year. I do not expect, obviously, the same results this year. So, yes, huge problem defense. Completely agree with you. I do like Leonard Watson at the QB position.
Yep.
But other than that, man, I mean, like, the top 2 running backs are gone. The top 2 wide receivers from last year are gone. They got an Indiana transfer, Elijah Green, probably take over the running back position. There is some experience at the wide receiver position. They do have 3 O-line starters returning. So offensively, I'm a little more iffy than you just because you're losing 4 quality players at skill positions. So if somebody can step up, yeah, they should be okay. But that defense, man, holy mackerel, they're losing, like you said, everybody.
Yes.
And this schedule,
yeah.
I mean, they get Jacksonville State at home, which will help. They go to Western Kentucky, which probably won't help, but they're non-conference schedule, man. I don't know if you took it. Usually you see these non-conference teams, they get 2 at home, 2 away. 3 of their 4 are away. And the one that they're hosting is UNLV. I mean, I know you love you some UNLV from the last show, but they go to Texas. They go to Oregon State. Oregon State might not be that great. They go to Hawaii. I mean, I know you also love you some Hawaii.
I do.
Hawaii is not an easy thing to do. If I was going for work, I wouldn't give a crap what I was doing. I'm in Hawaii. So yeah, the schedule worries me. The starters and depth at the RB and wide receiver position that now are no longer there worry me a little bit. I actually have on my card leaning under 4.5. So
okay.
I might also that you're leaning over 4.5, but yeah, I'm going to respectfully disagree here. I didn't fire on it because again, a lot of these teams are so bad. I mean, 1 win here, 1 win there. I may score 3 games over your win total possibly in this conference, but I think this team was crushed the worst on the defensive side of the ball. And Jacksonville State should still score. Western Kentucky should score. I mean, UNLV, Hawaii, Texas, they're all going to score. I don't know if they're winning any of those games. And if not, that's 5 losses right off the bat. So for them to hit 5, they're going to need to maybe spring an upset, maybe 2. But yeah, I'm going to go the other way. Again, not betting it. But yeah, what is going to be interesting, that week 0 game, there's only 4 of them. Sam Houston goes to Western Kentucky. That's going to be fun. Conference game that early in the season. I don't care if it's this conference. I'm still going to be watching because that could say something in the conference race before we even get to September. So. All right, Jacksonville State. No more Rich Rod. Very sad.
Yeah, very sad.
7-1 at DraftKings. 6.5 win total, juice to the under. FanDuel, same win total, also juice to the under, but plus 950. So if you'd like them to win the conference, definitely log into your FanDuel account. What do we think about Jacksonville State, man?
This is a tough nut to crack. I've spent some time kicking the can on this one because I'm not quite sure how to read this. I mean, they've had massive turnover, which is no surprise. So whole new set of players coming in. What is that going to mean? I don't know. I do think there's potential here. for them. I do believe that there's certainly some upside for them here. I think that defense will be pretty decent. So I would say top third of the conference, somewhere in that neighborhood is what I'd expect. Offense, it's hard to tell, right? I mean, so I don't really know where that goes. I do think there's potential. I was kicking around conference wins somewhere. Probably, I counted 4, maybe 5, but probably 4, somewhere in that ballpark when I was counting them up. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I picked them. I kicked them around as my surprise, and then I surprised myself by deciding I didn't like them as a surprise. So I've gone all over the place in this team. I think it's just a challenging. This is a challenging team for me at the moment, just with so much turnover. I don't know what you do with that. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. I mean, who knows? Sometimes turnover is a great thing, but it's hard to tell. So I mean, they're certainly not going to have continuity, which is an issue. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I'm with you. I looked at this team probably way longer than I should have. And you talked about continuity. I think it's a good thing, maybe if you were terrible at a certain position group or a unit as a whole, whether it be an offense or defense. But I think when you have all this kind of turnover and you were really good, especially on the offensive side of the ball, I think that's going to be a problem. So let's start off with the coaching thing, because here's what confused me a little bit. I like what you said about the defense, because they ended up hiring Charles Kelly, who supposedly is kind of known for defense. What I didn't understand is Rod Smith, who was your offense coordinator, who coached in the bowl game, you didn't hire him. So I was kind of a little shocked that's the route they went. But and I just wrote this down for their offense, and I have these guys as my disappointing team for the year. But I think their odds are so low because their schedule is absolute ass. But we'll get into that in a second. Tyler Huff was their QB. Trey Stewart was their number 1 running back. If you just add the yards and the touchdowns that these two guys put together, 5,525 yards between the two guys, passing and running, 54 touchdowns, 40 of them. These two guys combined for 40 rushing touchdowns out of the 54 that they scored. You just cannot replace that. I mean, your top wide receiver followed Rich Rod to West Virginia, Cam Vaughn. You only have one starter returning on the offensive line. You get a nice TCU transfer, Cam Cook, to be your running back. But I mean, do you trust Cade Cunningham or Gavin Wimsatt to lead your team? I don't, but this team is not. I mean, this team blew away everybody in offense. This is the one team that actually put up some offensive numbers. But the guys responsible for that are all gone.
Yeah, right.
And now you have a defensive coach. So I don't know how you're going to replicate that. My guess is you're not going to. Your top 10 tacklers last year on defense, only one is back. The secondary, like you had said, practically brand new. But the schedule is certainly manageable. I mean, you get Liberty and Western Kentucky, but they're both at your field. You don't really have anybody that's probably going to challenge for this conference on the road. So I can see. Yeah. All right. I talked about this about somebody what other team? I don't remember had really low odds to win the conference. Oh, Clemson. Clemson was like 20 to 1 to win a national championship, almost even money to win the conference, but they only had a win total of 9.5, and it was juiced to the under. Okay. This is what I think when you're at Jacksonville State. All right. Your second or third betting choice to win the conference, but your win total is only set at 6.5 and is juiced to the under at two major sports books. I can't. They're my disappointment. I just cannot back this team. We watched a lot of, because October was Conference USA week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday on ESPN. So we saw a lot of Jacksonville State. I just don't know how they're gonna be like really good on either side of the ball, especially offense. I mean, this is a team that I think has got the biggest offensive drop off in this conference. Which is a shame, because if they can replicate any of it, they probably could be playing in the Conference USA title game. But I just don't see it, man. There's so many losses here on both sides, and I don't know if I'm a super huge fan of the coaching hire either. But yeah, no bets here. I mean, I would kind of lean to the under, but like I said, the schedule's so awful. You could go 7-5 by accident. You could put up 17 points and maybe win.
That was my thought when I was thinking as my surprise. Like, if they can just, if that defense can eke out, 6 wins for them or something, maybe, right? I think there's some potential there, but that's what it would be. I mean, this is a totally different offensive team. It's hard to read it because this is different, right? different game, but they brought in a defensive coach. So perhaps if you can get that defense gel, and it's quicker to get a defense to gel than an offense. So if they can get that defense gelling earlier in the year, they could eke out some wins. So it's tough to read, but I think there is some potential with the defense.
Yeah, agreed. All right, moving on. 3 teams to go. Louisiana Tech. Whoever thought one of these guys would be a top team to win the conference? DK 9-1. FanDuel now also 9-1. Here's another win total discrepancy. DraftKings has them at 5.5 juice to the over. FanDuel has them at 6.5 juice to the under. Yeah, this was another team that threw me for a loop. I don't even really know where to go here. I didn't have a lean either way, but what do you think on La Tech?
Yeah, that's the story of this conference. There's so many of these teams where it's just so difficult to get a good read on them because of just turnover and change and coaches in and out and players in and out. It's really difficult to tell. To me, I think this team is going to be worse than what I've seen. I mean, 6. I would be inclined to go with the under here. I think they're going to have some challenges throughout the year. I truly think they might win 6 games. Something like that would be my thought with this team. But once again, it's just really hard to read this. I think their retention in terms of turnover is about 50%. It's about equal on both sides of the ball, a little more turnover on defense. So that certainly isn't going to help them. Yeah, I mean, I think that defense is going to have to carry them a bit here, but I just don't have a ton of confidence in that. I think this is a team that's going to underperform this year. That's my perspective on them, simply because the unknowns here. So yeah, that's my thought.
Yeah, I mean this team. I looked at them and it sounds weird, but I really think that how these coordinators perform, the new coordinators they brought in, is going to kind of determine how this team goes. They weren't really, no one's going to confuse these guys offensively with the Oregon Ducks. You do have a returning quarterback, which we always say is a positive. Evan Bullock. He was a freshman last year, not terrible, over 2,100 yards, 14 TDs, only 3 picks, 66% completion percentage, but a lot of short passes. I mean, he did not really air out the ball at all. So your top running back, Wiggins, returns. But the one receiver you had that was actually good, True Edwards, 85 catches, almost 1,000 yards, 6 TDs. He's gone. But Tony Franklin came in to be the offense coordinator. He apparently was the OC back in 2010 for a few years. So he's back to try and turn this offense around. But you had mentioned the defense being a concern. Dude, I cannot agree more. So you had this guy, Jeremiah Johnson, as your defense coordinator last year. 2 years ago, before you brought him in, you were giving up 33 points a game. He came in, you gave up 21 points a game. And then you let this guy go to Coastal Carolina. Or maybe he was just like, screw it, my work here is done. I'm going to Coastal Carolina. So now this defense isn't going to perform the same. I mean, they lost the guy that had this all together. That front 7, especially the front 4, took a beating as far as losses go. All these new pieces, can they stop the run and be a decent defense? I don't know if they can. So I think that defense is going to take a step back. Does that counter the offense potentially taking a step forward? Does Bullock get the okay to air it out a little bit more? I don't know what kind of offense Tony Franklin runs. 2010 was like 100 years ago. So I don't know what they were doing back then. But again, you look at the schedule, their conference road games are certainly all winnable. They host Western Kentucky and Liberty. Non-conference, they go to LSU, but that's just a nice paycheck to pay the new coordinators, I guess. But yeah, again, too many questions. If that defense isn't anywhere near what they were last year, this is an under. If the new guy, Luke Olson is his name, can make them even somewhat closer to the 2024 version than the 2023 version, this isn't over. But again, I stayed away. I watched some La Tech. I really was not impressed with their offense. I think that's going to take a lot of work. So until I see what they're putting out there on the field, I am avoiding this team, at least in the early going. All right, the top 2. Western Kentucky, one of Tim's favorite college basketball teams from our time back in high school. What do we got? DK's got them at plus 380. FanDuel has them at plus 410. Both books have the win total set at 7.5. DK's is juiced to the under. FanDuel's is juiced to the over. What do we think about the Hilltoppers?
Well, so in terms of continuity, little bit. Hold on, sorry, clicked on the wrong button there. Yeah, I mean they've had a lot of turnover, of course, which is an issue. But once again, if you think about it, so the reason why I'm struggling with this conference, we all are. Just think about these conference win total projections going all the way down the list here. Liberty 6.4, Western Kentucky 5.6, Jacksonville State 4.5, San Houston 4.2, Louisiana Tech 4.1, Delaware 3.8, New Mexico State 3.4. They are so tightly bunched because these teams are just so similar, right? It just takes for these teams one thing to go right or one thing to go wrong, right? If one of these new quarterbacks you bring in lights things up, suddenly you're moving up the list. And that's been the challenge here, specifically for Western Kentucky. What I do like is their defense. I think their defense is going to be good. I expect them to be one of the better defenses in the conference. I think the offense has upside, right? I think there is a potential for this offense to be fairly decent. We'll see how that plays, right? We haven't seen it kind of rubber meeting the road yet, but I think there is potential for this offense if those things gel, right? If the defense is, goodish like it should be, and the offense can step up a little bit, then this team can absolutely win this conference, no question about it. But the playing field is so flat here in this conference. Even though if you look at the conference odds, I mean, Liberty, there's definitely a gap between Liberty and everybody else. I'm not sure that's actually as prominent as it would appear to be. But the issue is it's really hard to put a finger down on. Okay, so with Western Kentucky, defense should be good. Is the offense going to improve? As we talked about all these teams, like there are like one switch that needs to be flipped, and it's hard to tell which one's going to be flipped. And that's been the challenge here. That's why I really don't have any bets in this conference. Is who knows what's going to happen? It could be a really interesting conference. Somebody could run away with it. I don't know, and that's what makes it interesting. But this is one of those conferences that I think has just been beat up by the whole new structure here, and it's creating issues in terms of just continuity in the conference and just really trying to read what's going to happen here. But I personally think they will have a good year. I do think they have a very decent chance of winning this conference. So yeah, I think it'll be a positive year for them. It's just hard to tell how positive.
Yeah, I mean, when you were talking about the offense, I literally am just shaking my head yes because I agree with everything you said. I think this off. I mean, yes, they only have one returning starter and it's an offensive lineman. But
Yes.
if you remember a couple of years ago, Tyson Helton, who by the way could very well be my favorite coach behind Willie Simmons in this conference, he brought over Zach Kitley, offense coordinator, and a quarterback by the name of Bailey Zappi, both from the same program. They went absolute nuts offensively. They were one of the best offensive schools in the country, especially in this conference. Well, all these guys are leaving. Helen's doing the same thing. He's bringing in Maverick McIver. And who is this new offensive coordinator? I didn't even write his name down, but whatever. They're both from Abilene Christian. So I don't expect them to lose too much on the offensive side of the ball. And again, you had talked about this conference, not a lot of offense. Helen's got a track record of bringing in new guys. As long as the QB and OC are from the same program, there's continuity there. So even though it's a brand new program, there should still be some success. How soon, I guess, is the big question mark. But I don't expect a huge drop off from this offense. George Hart returns in the backfield. Katie Hutchinson is back at wide receiver. Defensively, again, stop me if you've heard this before, is where my concern is. Only one returning starter. This team was so bad at stopping the run. So if you look at the rush stats from this conference, only one team allowed 2,400 rush yards, and that was Western Kentucky, and they allowed 3,097. So they were by far the worst rush defense in this conference. They have two new co-defensive coordinators that they brought on board. But the top 12 tacklers gone. The 7.5 is interesting because week 0 through 2, we had mentioned the Sam Houston game. They go to Toledo. I would love to see what they do against Toledo. And I believe that's week 2 because we had talked about Toledo potentially being your group of 5 representative. I know Toledo's got that first game at Kentucky. And if they can win that, they certainly have a shot. And then the last 2 weeks of the season, they're at LSU, the last non-conference game at LSU, week 13, and then at Jacksonville State. So it could start rough, it could end rough, but the middle of that schedule is pretty darn easy. So if they can get anything defensively, and I know we say this a lot, but my God, play some defense. You'll be in the title game. You'll probably go over 7.5. But I'm interested to see what this offense is going to do because it's usually a fun one to watch. And now we're basically starting from scratch. So, but you can't discount Helton's track record. So, I mean, between him and Willie Simmons, man, I love what these two guys are bringing to their programs. But again, no bet for me because what, 2 returning starters total? Yeah. God, come on, man. All right. Last year's epic disappointment is once again this year's favorite to win the conference. Liberty Bibberty, DK and FanDuel both at plus 140 to win this conference. DK's got a win total posted of 8.5, juice to the over. FanDuel's got 9.5, juice to the under. God, it's Jamie Chadwell, man. God, what the hell happened to them last year? Caden Salter just looked like he just didn't even want to play half the time. What do we think about the Flames, man?
I think for Liberty, they need to prove it, right? I mean, this is a team that should win this conference. They have experience. They have a good deal of consistency. I think on the defensive side of the ball, I think they very well might have 11 starters that are juniors and seniors. So, I mean, this is a team that really should win this conference, period, and stop, right? They're a team that last year, taking losses, they shouldn't. I think this is a team that has a little bit of that, I don't know, ball in their back a bit, and that they've got to perform, right? They need to be consistent. They're not consistent, but they should be. If this defense does what it should do with juniors and seniors on this team, I would fully expect that this team should win this conference. Now, it's a really short price. I wouldn't touch that for anything. I definitely don't believe in them that much. I mean, I just talked about Western Kentucky and the potential that they could win the conference. I don't really trust Liberty because they tend to lose games they shouldn't lose. But this is a team yeah, right, exactly. Right. They just lose games they shouldn't lose. And so can they stop that, right? Can they stop the James Franklin effect or something of that nature, right? Can they actually step up and win all the games that they should win and be competitive in the others, which I think they can do. So I do think they'll win the conference this year. I think that they can keep the glue together here, and I think they'll be a pretty good team. Not going to be a great team. I don't think anybody out of this conference is doing much of anything outside of here, including Liberty. But I think Liberty could absolutely, I don't want to say dominate, but certainly win this conference as they should. And if they don't, shame on them because they're set up to do so. And I said, there's so much uncertainty and a lack of continuity and changeover and everything else. And most of these other teams that they really should be able to do this, but we'll see how this plays out. I said, I wouldn't bet them. What was the over under on the wins again? You say,
depends on where you go. DK's got 8.5. FanDuel's got 9.5.
Yeah, I wouldn't touch that either. I could easily see them winning 9, maybe something like that. We'll see how that plays out. But yeah, it's put up or shut up time for them. I mean, they realistically expected them to win last year. Expect the same this year. It's time to just go out there and do it, right? That's my position on them.
Yeah, I have very little to add. You must have read my note cards before you started talking. But I almost thought of at FanDuel having that 9.5 being juiced to the under, of taking a decent price on the over, but it wasn't that decent. So I had backed away. The thing, they lost some key pieces, like you'd mentioned, their quarterback, their top 2 running backs, their top receiver. Ethan Vasco is going to be the guy. Do I have a lot of faith in him? I don't think could have done worse to replace Salter, but don't hate him, don't really love him. But a lot of the depth at the offensive skill positions is back, and like you said, that's a problem for most of these programs. Defensively, kind of the same thing. Lost a lot, especially up front. But again, a lot of production. Guys that didn't start but at least got snaps are back on that side of the ball, especially in the secondary. So they should have a decent pass defense. This schedule, though. Okay, here's your 4 home games in conference: Delaware, Missouri State, Kennesaw State, landmine, be careful there, Liberty, and New Mexico State. Yes. Okay, so should that be 4 wins right out the bat? Yeah, probably. Yes. Your only tough road game looks like Jacksonville State. There's no Western Kentucky. There's no Sam Houston.
Yep.
I may look again to see if FanDuel's got a little bit more better number on the 9.5 total and maybe go over. But like you said, how can you trust this team after all the skill position, good players that they had, even depth at the RB position, and you still go out and just play, the loss to Kennesaw State, I'm a Notre Dame guy. The Northern Illinois thing's still the biggest upset, as much as it pains me to say it. But
Yeah.
I mean, Liberty was 5-1 at the time. Kennesaw was 0-5, I believe. I mean, like, how do you trust this team not to throw another stinker in there? They're like Notre Dame. Notre Dame every year throws in a stinker at some point.
Yep.
And you say you did the 1 plus 140 to win. Yeah, I agree. I wouldn't touch plus 140 on this at all, because they were about the same number last year. They weren't even in the title game. So, and that was with Salter and Cooley, and all these guys that were supposed to get them to the conference title game. So, despite what looks like a manageable schedule on paper, as much as I'm not a Salter fan, I think Vasco is still a step down. And again, you're going to need some of this skill position depth to step up and show that you can start. Because a lot of your starters are gone here. So I'm not touching this team either, man. I just can't do it.
I mean, could Chadwell be in the hot seat? I mean, really, this is a team. I mean, I would say they have the best roster in the conference. They have probably the easiest schedule in the conference. And so if you can't win now, right, if you stub your toe and lose a 1 or 2 stinkers somewhere, where do you go from there? I mean, I think you can go out and find somebody who might be able to turn the team. Not that he can't get players there, but once again, it's like my James Franklin thing that I talked about forever. The guy can recruit, he can get players in, and then he can't coach when it comes down to it. Although last year I gave him a pass here, but I don't know what's going on here. But I mean, this should, as I said, they should win this conference, period. That could have been the whole show. Liberty's going to win the conference. Great. We're going home, right? I mean, that should be it, but you can't trust them. That's why I don't put many wagers on Liberty through the year, because I just never know what they're going to do. And it's just too hard there's no patterns. I'm a math guy. I look for patterns, and they just confuse me. So they're a team that I really would like to see them win the conference, just do what they're supposed to do. That'd be lovely. Yeah. See it happen, do your thing, strut it out there, and move along with your stuff, right? But
yeah.
They probably lost.
I lost a couple of bets on them last year. They couldn't even cover against New Mexico State on the road, and the spread wasn't even that high. Watching that Kennesaw State game, because it was the only game on TV that night, I mean, Liberty just looked like, you know what, we're going to win just because we're supposed to. Kennesaw State was fired up. They played a hell of a game. They made every big play, every big stop. And like you said, is that a coaching problem?
That's coaching again, right? That's exactly. Coaching issue. Your team isn't ready to play when you're playing. Your team needs to be ready to play. You get a chump coming in, right? Beat them like you're supposed to beat them. If you're sleepwalking through the game, that's on the coach, and that's where I have a problem with this team. That's why I think he could end up on the hot seat by halfway through this season if they're just not performing. I would not be surprised.
Yeah. I always see a lot of Group of 5 coaching changes over the course of the year. There's a lot of hot coordinators out there.
Absolutely.
I don't know what his buyout is. We'll have to get Mark on the show. Get Mark back here and be like, Mark Chadwell, yes or no? Is he gone if he doesn't at least show up in the conference championship game this year? But yeah, I mean, it's amazing watching 1 or 2 performances where you're like, God, I just can't back them until I see
he signed
change.
He signed an 8-year contract extension through 2030. Average just under $5 million a year, 40 over 8. I don't see
he
the
ain't going
buyout.
All right,
probably not. He's there. I mean, he should be on the hot seat if they don't win, but anyway, he won't be.
Back-to-back years, I'd be kind of concerned. But, all right, so that's everybody. We'll go through PU and I'll recap our stuff. My champion, unfortunately, despite everything we just said, bashing the Flames, I still think Liberty remembers last year, have that chip on their shoulder, come out. I think they're gonna win this conference. I don't know who they're going to play in the title game. Like I said, there's so many question marks here, but I think Liberty will get there and get the job done. My disappointment team is actually going to be Jacksonville State. They are just losing so much on both sides of the ball. I mean, and just 2 players on offense. I mean, I don't know if you can replace those stats with 4 or 5 guys, but I think they're going to struggle. My surprise team will be UTEP. So much so that I actually have them winning over 5.5 games as my 1 bet for this conference. I got plus 124 at FanDuel. Now it's a little bit higher than that. So go take advantage of the better number. But yeah, my 1 bet, UTEP over 5.5. And Tim's bet here, I didn't get his picks for the champion, the surprise or disappointment. He's working. He's got Middle Tennessee State winning this conference. I'm assuming that's a potential hedge play. But he got them at plus 1750.
Right.
You had no
All right,
bets,
for me.
but
Yeah, I have no bets. I said I wouldn't touch this conference right now for anything. But winner, Liberty. And as I said, they got to prove it, and it's just time. I'm not going to pick them next year if they don't prove it this year. I'll pick somebody else out of spite, right? So I think they're going to win here. I'm on the opposite side of the surprise and disappointment here with Darren with his Jacksonville State team. I don't know why. I mean, I have no real evidence to support the fact that I think they could do something positive. I just do. And I think it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Heck, they could lose all their games, and I wouldn't be shocked. But at the end of the day, I do think there's something to be said there. Disappointment, the rest of the conference. I spend most of the time trying to find a disappointment. It's like, well, this team's terrible. This team's going to disappoint everybody. Well, who would even watch this team? I mean, there's so many of these, like, I don't know. They're all going to disappoint me. But pretty much, I'm sure Liberty will just, you know what? Let's do this. Liberty to win the conference, but also Liberty to disappoint. Not in terms of winning the conference, but they're just not going to be as good as they should be. And so they're going to do both. They're going to win, but they're going to be disappointing when they win. That's so nice. I'll take for both.
Good take right there. Yeah, Tim, I know, is famous for like betting on a team to win the conference and then picking another team as his winner. So yeah, but I mean, that I think that's his hedging opportunity. Like he's going to pick somebody to win, he's going to bet on somebody to win, and he's going to hope that they meet up. And that's a cool strategy. I could see that.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what? I just got a text from him. Hold on. Late breaking news. He's got Liberty as his disappointment as well.
Right, perfect.
And yeah, he's projecting a Middle Tennessee State, Western Kentucky conference title game as he has Western Kentucky winning his conference.
You could stick these names in a hat. You could pull one or two out.
You really
and say,
could.
Here's the championship. These two teams. Whatever. I'll believe it. Why not?
Sure. It should be fun. But you know what? We'll all be sitting there Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday in October watching these games because
yes, we will.
That's what
and
we
texting
do.
Like, what the heck was that?
None of us know what it is, but it's fun. It's midweek football in October, and we love Conference USA for bringing us that. So thanks, guys. All right, so that's all we got for today with our Conference USA preview. Couple bets out there for you as well. Thank you for joining us. Please like, please subscribe, and most importantly, please comment. Let us know who you're betting on. Let us know if this conference is making you drink. Apparently, it's going to make Pete do that. Cheers to all our bettors out there. All right, guys, thanks for checking us out. We'll see you in about 10, 12 days or so. What's next on the agenda? Sunbelt?
We get Sunbelt.
Sunbelt. All right, yeah. Look for a Sunbelt video in a couple weeks. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.